Well, we're here. We're a minute late, but we're here. And I don't know what she's snickering about, but it's fun
Hi,
nonetheless.
Carl. Hi, Donna.
Yep.
Are your I was looking at the chat.
It
Is the
looks
stupid
like the
o'clock and the last
stream
man standing
on.
fun? The crowd, are they going to be on for tonight? Do you know, guys, or are they still ailing?
Oh, there's something
No
going on
shows
with our.
Thursday.
There's something going on with our Facebook feed. Hold on.
Oh
Okay.
no.
I posted that we were going to be on with with the YouTube link on my page. So
Yeah. Well. Oh well. Bye bye.
hope, hopefully some people saw it. Trying to think. DC was going to try to. My friend DC was going to try to get here, but they've also
Well,
got
we.
Chinese New Year celebrations
Right.
going on.
Right.
Well, no, it's Facebook doing its normal thing. So
Back like a
my
virus,
my
Carl.
my 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 sentiments about not being live on Facebook.
Hey, you can't do that unless you're
Naughty.
under arrest on
Oh,
I have my
what is it again?
TVMA on. I could do whatever I want at this point. No, but seriously, it's like before I came on, I got everything settled with it connecting to Facebook, and now all of a sudden, Jane's like, "Nope,
Nope.
you can't do it." So,
You're not the only one. I know the back of the cereal box has had that same. Some weeks it works great. Other weeks it's just YouTube.
mhm. But again, we still got YouTube and we still got Twitch, so we're good. We're still good. It's not like we get people chatting on YouTube on the Exigency Studios page. Again, I kind of miss the old school Rising Tide page because people would watch there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key thing here. But like we said before, we got Donna in the house. We got
yay!
Carl here.
Yay!
Ooh, the whole crew of Stupid O'Clock and Last Man Standing was down for the count last week. No
Yeah.
shows Thursday or Saturday. Wow.
That's what I was asking if they're still out or if they plan to be back
He
tonight.
said they're back like a virus.
Well, I didn't know if he was talking about the shows or
Oh,
them.
Right.
Wasn't sure which of them we're talking about.
Oh, so Carl is trying to revive the Rising
I saw
Tide.
his comment about that. Yeah.
Because
So
the whole thing about the page the page to me was important because that linked everything together.
right.
Even though we may go our separate ways, we would still link through that page, and it just seems that it is us, us as the people. The people are back, but I don't think the shows are.
I think it's next
Yes,
week.
there are shows scheduled for the night, scheduled for the night.
Mm-hmm.
schedule Dudge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to say Sunday was a lot of fun.
It was. It was a good show. We
Sunday
did a
was
special
fun.
for if anybody. I don't think Carl and Donna saw, but anybody that watches later on, we did. We volunteered to do an hour of comic book spectrum for the multiverse fundraiser to raise funds for comic books for kids. And by the way, they're still collecting funds into February.
Yay! Okay.
Into February. So I'll give or if Joe's got to give a link here later on to where you can log in at the multiverse fundraiser page, and right at the top it's got comic books for kids, and you can add to the donations that were given. But we had a really good show, didn't we?
Yeah, it was so much fun.
It surprised me that we had a special guest at the very end. That's one of the reasons I want people to go out there and watch the show, because that special guest is very important.
I thought we were in trouble when he popped in at first, because when he just popped in, I was like, "Holy shit, they're gonna pull us off the air. We did something wrong, and I was on my best behavior."
And yes, Elaine was on her very best behavior.
Something really right. So
I was like working hard to behave and everything.
I would say you flipped the script perfectly, because it was.
And if you guys missed it, it was one of the few times where Clyde and I switched roles. I wasn't moderating; he was.
That's right.
It was great. It was great.
Clyde was master.
Oh, thank you.
And you did a great job. My friend DC was very happy and very impressed with the show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and a spotlight like that, and then having the creator show up too, that was nicely done, ma'am. Nicely done.
Well, I had just posted the link. I didn't know he goes to church on Sundays. And some people, church is like a whole day thing because you have, you have your service and then people get together for lunch or whatnot, or they do dinners and stuff. Some people it's like a whole day thing. And some people, they do a morning service and then they come back and do an evening service. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't expect it. I said, well, here's the link. I'm going to put it on my page. If you can make it to just see what we do and see what we're about, drop in. But I didn't expect him to like come in and actually, I was like, dang, dude was like, oh my goodness, you're here.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Joe. There you go.
There it is. It's really on the Phoenix Sisters website here more so than its own.
Okay.
And you have the donate here button that's still there, and it has watch on YouTube and Facebook. And there was the schedule here for all 3 days.
Are they going to, here's a stupid question. Will they be doing things like a playback?
It's on YouTube. You could play it back at any given time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure, because sometimes there are events that they have like this sort of marathon event, and once it's over, it's over.
If you go to my Clyde Hall or Radiating Positive Vibes with Clyde Hall, I listed every day of the event, they have the Radiating Positive Vibes, and it had all of the links, either with the pictures or just listed underneath it. So they're all right there in one swell foop.
Okay.
And they have they have it right here on their page, like watch on YouTube, and it's a complete
playlist schedule. Cool.
And we're 22 in that playlist.
And we're there we are. But we were so well behaved and we didn't have an adult.
On Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Oh, there we are.
There we go.
And I'm Clyde Hall.
So yeah, we're there.
I feel like watching me. Because my background doesn't really change much.
The infinity vision.
It's kind of like
travel explanation from Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Kind of like an ABBA song, knowing me, knowing you, but it's like watching me, watching you. If we do this would be fun if we do it again next year, but we all have to, I think we should, have a specific dress code, pick a color, and like if we are going to go goth, or we are going to go cosplay, or I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that would work.
It would work.
Joe's got this look like,
it's like, oh well, here we go. We gotta be fancy schmancy for something that's supposed to be fun. It's like we're not doing a presentation at the Oscars or something like that. We're raising money. We're supposed to put on a show.
Speaking of that, did you guys look at the Oscar noms?
No, I haven't.
Some of it, but I just my sentiments is always going to be what it is. It's like they tend to pick movies that don't really represent everybody or represent the greater whole that came out.
True.
Though I will say the Lord of the Rings trilogy was a huge surprise, because those of us in the fandom, everybody thought, maybe they'll get like a technical Oscar.
Right.
A little technical Oscar, but because I think Star Wars got a technical Oscar. So we thought, okay, they'll get maybe a technical Oscar or set, sound, or costuming. But, they're not going to get anything for like writing, directing, producing. It was like, and then it was like, wow. Y'all, it's like, y'all recognize.
Yeah, sometimes they surprise you with that.
I think it was also because it's at that point of the generational change. in regards, because the only people who are allowed to nominate or vote for the Oscars are previous Oscar winners. So those are the only people who are allowed to nominate and or vote. And you nominate in your category. So the actors are all nominated by actors and whatnot. And I think as more of the old guard is dying out, you have more of the younger actors coming in. And so you see some changes in what performances get noticed and whatnot. You know what, these days I only have the extendeds, so you know, so I don't even think about the theatricals because I own all the extendeds.
I had to put that comment up because I agree. Just like I still take a matter of hubris when it comes to the first Black Panther movie, which I believe should have been Best Picture, or at least got a nod for Best Picture, as opposed to setting and costumes and all this other stuff. If you're nominated for those three, why is it not Best Picture?
Same reason Cooley High got nominated for soundtrack and not Best Picture. You know, when you think about it, there are a lot of films that, you know, should have been that weren't. And like I said, it's a matter of producers nominate best film. And so if your producers are a bunch of primarily older white guys, guess what films are going to get nominated?
Yep.
You know, and part of it is also it's political and it's financial, because the way they handle it is you have so many weeks in December in which to get your movies into certain theaters for Academy member screenings. And that's not cheap, because you literally have to rent theater space for that to say we're having Academy screenings for this movie. So that's expensive. And then the ads, you know, to get into the premiere and certain trade magazines, when you get into Premiere, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Backstage and whatnot, that can be costly, because you're expected to produce this full page ad and then get as much on that ad as possible. And if you're a smaller film, you're not going to have the money to get that spread. If you're lucky, you might get a page in the Reporter, you know, and hope on that day, because the Reporter, I think it comes out once a week now, but still it's trying to get an ad in that paper for people in the industry to go, oh, this little movie came out and I hadn't seen it. You know, so it's a lot of jockeying. And sometimes some members will like have viewing parties. You know, if they can get the reel, they'll have a viewing party of a film for people they know whose votes count, because not everybody's vote counts the same within those categories as well. Some people, you know, more people listen to Jack Nicholson than say, you know, whoever, you know, say Timothy Chalamet. It's, you know, certain people's voices in their categories carry more weight. So there may be a film that the younger group thinks is more deserving, but the older group didn't get it or didn't like it. And so that younger group may get shouted down. So
I'm just keeping my comment to myself, because I'm going to sound very uneducated, but I don't want to prove the point. Okay. And the point is, it's like there's a time and decade and era that any industry goes through. And when you got producers and directors who don't understand that their turn at bat is over with. And if you want another swing at another turn at the plate, you got to innovate something new and different. You have to go ahead and do it. And pretty much it's like I just get tired of that type of stupid politics behind it. Because I think about Scorsese, I think about Coppola, not Coppola, what's his name? Scorsese did the Departed, right?
Departed, Godfathers, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
If it's an Italian mob drama of any caliber, Scorsese's had a hand in it.
And this is the thing. It's like I think about his comments about superhero movies. And I sit back and I think, you know what? Tell me the last time we got a good musical in a theater. Tell me the last time we got a good romantic movie in a theater. Those things have their generations and their eras. And until somebody comes up with a better story, which has good filmography to it, then it's going to become a thing again. Let the superhero genre be its genre for the time that it can stay at the top. Don't badmouth something that you're not doing anything to help innovate.
Wicked just made $700 million at the box office.
Thank you.
They're smacking big. But B, you're absolutely correct. I would have loved to have knocked Scorsese's butt through a wall, because it's like, dude, your filmmaking genre is a narrow. It's a very he's a master at his craft, but his craftsmanship is in a very narrow spectrum. And
don't be afraid to take a wider view.
And it's like, I get it. When you did The Godfather, there were people who were kind of like, oh yeah, it's just a mob, it's a crime drama, no one's gonna care. And then it's like you proved them wrong. And to me, it's like that should have made you a little more sensitive to superhero movies. We're not even in the same ballpark. Superhero movies are not threatening mob features. So I don't get what all that throwing shade was. But then then it turned out, as he was making that, because he had a project he was trying to push. And by throwing shade at superhero, and I think what happened is he may have sat in a meeting trying to push something that he had, and some young gun just got his position in development, was like, well, it's no Spider-Man. And that I think maybe somebody made some very stupid, callous remark, and it ticked him off. But it was like, dude, slamming our genre because you feel like people didn't give your genre respect, and it's like, that's stupid. There was a point between the 70s and the 80s where some of the top movies out there were crime dramas. Taxi Drive. I mean, De Niro at one point owned the box office. So and I think, and you would think somebody who's been in the industry long enough would go, hey, these things run cycles. The Westerns had their time. The musicals, Busby Berkeley had his time. Then it was smaller musicals featuring people like Ethel Merman and whatnot had their time. Things either adapt with the time or they go, they kind of fade until another time when they pop up. And you get one or two interesting musicals and then they kind of go away. And
I always try to watch. I look at the list, and if there's something on there that looks interesting, I try to watch it just so I kind of know what the vibe for the year is. And two of them got my attention. The The Substance, because for a horror movie, it's got a lot of nominations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one with Demi Moore,
Yes.
which is
And-
interesting because the title makes me think of The Stuff. Every time I
Well-
hear that title, I think of The Stuff.
Somebody else was saying that they thought it was kind of a modern version of The Stuff, but it's really. I watched it online, and it isn't for everybody.
No, but I heard
What?
she does give it a remarkably good performance. You know, her performance as this actress trying to, fading. This is like her Norma Desmond moment. This stuff is kind of like her Norma Desmond, if you get what I'm talking about. Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson, Norma Desmond. This is kind of like her Norma Desmond moment. Aging actress, desperately trying to figure out how to stay relevant when the rest of the industry seems to have gone past her. So yeah, I read up on the movie and I hadn't watched it, but I've read up on it. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And I'd seen enough reviewers giving her a good, and it's like, oh, okay. Especially since she was not really that into this genre. This genre has never been her thing, but there are a lot of people for whom this genre had not been their thing that actually restarted their careers. So who knows? Maybe there'll be a Substance too.
One I hadn't seen yet, but I read the book and really liked was Nickel Boys.
I just saw the ad for that. Have you seen it, Joe?
No, and I still, like I said, I'm not really a big movie fan because of a lot of stuff out there that I just up here. It's like I look at, comments and things as far as how some people would trash a movie that I'm up here. It's like it had a good story if you give it a chance, and then it was like, well, the cinematography was off, or that was off, or that was off. It's like the whole point is they're trying their best to tell a story. And that's the key thing. It's like if you don't like the story, you don't like the story. That I can accept that, but we can nitpick over movies until the cows come home and nobody is ever happy. It's like I rarely, outside of this inner circle here, it's very rarely that you hear from people that they truly like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You always get, oh, it was okay, but this, that, and the other was wrong. It's like,
and some of my favorite movies never got anywhere close to getting an Oscar or a Golden Globe or anything. So, it's.
There were movies I saw as a child that I wish had been nominated. Coolie High, Cornbread Earl and Me was the film I thought.
Oh, that one's a good one. That one was a
Cornbread Earl. I saw it when it came out in the theaters. I liked Daughters of the Dust. I loved it. I think it's one of those movies. If I see it's on somewhere, it's like, ooh, gotta watch it. And she was one of the first Black female independents to get nationwide distribution of her film. She was one of the first to get nationwide distribution.
It kind of makes me wonder about just the industry as a whole, because I just recently watched a video that talked about box office bombs that had became cult classics.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they bombed at the box office, but yet they're well-known movies that you can't go around saying the name of the movie without people saying how much they like it.
Right.
Rocky Horror comes immediately to mind. If you Tim Curry's performance in that movie is just such a treat.
Again,
I had so much fun with it.
Movies like It's a Wonderful Life is on that list.
Ew.
It was a box office, and that was surprising because they went back and they looked at the actual numbers and what it generated. It's like that was a box office. It's like nobody went to the theaters to go see it. It wasn't until they got it to television that everybody loved it.
I worked that little nugget into the B-Man story for Pulp Reality 4 because it was Christmas. It takes place during the holiday season, and he's getting like these films that he could get cheaply or for free to show at this basically college movie theater, and so he's got this this failed Capra movie that and that was like a year. It went public domain for television like the year after, but you could get it for cheap for movie shows. So he was showing it and he was looking at it going, my main character going, this is really a pretty good movie. So it's weird that other people haven't found it yet.
She nailed it on the head. That's the history behind it. They forced it on Aaron because its licensing was in limbo. TVs could air it for next to nothing, and because they could air it to next to nothing, everybody got to rewatch it over and over and over again, and it became a.
Yep.
And it's also of movies. There was a time when almost every TV show, comedy, drama, with a few exceptions, especially 70s through 80s, had an It's the Wonderful Life episode of some sort or another. There were just no end of series that would have an It's a Wonderful Life episode.
Or a Scrooge episode.
Episode. That and Scrooge.
Yeah, true.
And there have been so many versions of, A Christmas Carol. You now when one says, "Oh, at Christmas," it's like which version?
Right.
I'm very fond of the Mr. Magoo, but that's me.
But it's just when you think about lists like that, or the Gene Wilder Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that was also on the list, which surprised me.
Yeah, it didn't.
It made its money back. It barely made its money back in the box office.
They spent a lot of money on advertising. I remember them before the movie came out. They actually was one of the first movies they had a half-hour special for, talking about the practical effects and how they built the sets and how that so much of what was on those sets was edible. And they had to make several versions because if they shot in the morning and had to reshoot, and the kids and the kids were enjoying it to the point where it was a little Hansel and Gretel-less, where they were eating up. They were trying to they had to bar the kids at one point from the sets because the kids were running around eating the sets. And I heard there was some Oompa Loompa hijinks going on as well.
Carl mentions Princess Bride here, and
that was on the list too.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because that's such a good movie. I took my boys to see it; they loved it.
You want to know why it was on the list? They did not know how to advertise it. It wasn't completely a romantic movie. It wasn't a completely adventure movie. It really wasn't, a swashbuckling movie. It was just a movie that was in its own kind of realm that, you couldn't put to like an advertiser to say, here, this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to advertise to get people to the theater.
Well,
that's
Star Wars is like that.
Things where you got the writers and the actors. And I mean, it's always a miracle that if it all comes off, as a really quality production, just because it has so many fingers in the stew here to make it. And then marketing, and that all comes together, and then marketing goes,
well, it's interesting how this change has come into the industry, because in the event in the early days, Mayer and those guys, the Warners, they themselves weren't filmmakers, but they appreciated the art. And they appreciated the worst. They treated them like slaves, but they still appreciated the movies and the people who made them. And then it was basically just the business guys who handled the numbers. But we saw, starting in the late 80s on, development execs and whatnot. You started ending up with the theme. You know what? It probably, if they'd have just said storming the castle, that would have just made it. But you end up with these people who got into films, who got into the film industry from they got their degrees in business management and accounting, finances and accounting. And the thing is they started treating the films like widgets. And these are people without any serious filmmaking backgrounds or understanding what it takes to make a film. All they think of is ones and zeros. It's widgets. It's like the guys who run the guys who run insurance, especially health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think film studios would be better and health insurance would be better if before these guys, because it used to be in order to become an agent, you didn't just get hired by William Morris Endeavor to work as an agent. You started in the mailroom. It used to be in the industry, even if your daddy owned a studio, you started in the mailroom and you worked up various departments to the point where you were sitting in meetings, listening to them, listening to the filmmakers, talking to the execs, trying to sell them on the ideas so that you understood it. But you had to learn the industry from the bottom up. They don't do that anymore. Excuse me. You get your bachelor's in whatever. And then, and if you know the right people, you get a job in development. You may not know anything about writing, about literature, how to take something from the written page and transfer it into an actual moving, breathing piece of film. They don't learn any of that. They just automatically, these little bean counters suddenly get yes or no positions in the industry. And the industry has always been somewhat predatory, but there's also been a great love of the art. And the more I see it, the less I see that.
I want to pause you there for 1 second. See, Parallax, she used the term. I didn't. No. She used it.
What, bean counter?
So that means I'm free to use it from this point forward. She used the term. She knows what term I'm talking about.
Okay.
She knows. She used it, so that opened up the door. So I'm not obligated, because she always teased me about, you always use that term.
I'm a bad girl. That lady.
No, she knows exactly which term, because when I get angry and get into my rants about marketing and stuff, there's a certain term that I always use, and you just used it. So,
but that's the problem. We have guys now who are marketing executives driving the. You used to have two different groups: the guys who ran the marketing and the guys who ran production. But now the marketing guys are running the studios. And so everybody is what sold last week. It used from the days when, in the early days, MGM was known for a specific type of movie. Paramount was known for a specific type of movie. Universal was known for a specific type of movie. Warner's, Fox, they all had, you could tell from the quality of the film to the actors to the story material, you could usually tell what was whose picture.
Glad you had a thought here.
Did you see how after your Saturday show, Joe? Did you see what some of the other companies are doing? Some of the smaller comic book companies are doing in the wake of the Diamond shakeup?
Well, some of them are just saying we're leaving now. I was like, yeah. And then I had another person out there on Facebook that I follow. It's like, why is it taking you this long? Why didn't you do it when Marvel and DC left? What took you so long?
Maybe they had stock there, or they still, Diamond may have been holding enough of warehousing enough of their product where they couldn't just up and walk.
But some of them are going Mad Cave. They're going not with Penguin, but the other one.
Lunar.
Yeah, going with that. And then a bunch of them are just going crowdfund. If you want our stuff, you have to crowdfund so we can get it out to you.
I still feel that part is a mistake too.
Yeah.
Because
and then some haven't done
going
anything
crowdfund means that they get maximum profit. They charge maximum premium, but not necessarily get maximum profit. That I'm going to table that topic from a desk, because that gets into the whole idea of the term that I'm not supposed to use, because that would make me one of them.
Okay. Well, I caught part of your show, and then I saw that over the last few days there's been announcements, so I didn't know if it
left and right and left, and these are not small companies like myself. These are like middle ground publishers that is steadily leaving Diamond. And it, like Brian and I was saying before, it comes back down to the culture. And it's like, a part of me, like I said, I'm of mixed opinion. From a business standpoint, I don't want Diamond to fail, but from a creator standpoint, oh yes, I want them to fail hard. Because they made a deal with what I consider a deal with the devil, and the devil left them to hang. The company that made you bailed on you first, and then everything is coming to roost. How you treated these smaller companies bad, how you did them dirty for all these other avenues of making revenue. And then you got newer people coming in, taking over. And it was several different management changes that happened from, I would say, from like 2000 to now. There's several different. But 2020, the pandemic, was the writing on the wall. Did they make the right decision? Yes. To shut down distribution. They made the right decision on that aspect here. But by doing that here, they also doomed themselves, because nobody was able to get books. Mom and pop shops, the local comic book shop, couldn't maintain. They couldn't open. And even if they were open during that time frame, it's not like too many people could get new books. It put them kind of in a catch-22. And then when you reopen back up, you don't have the major players on your side anymore. You already shooed away a lot of the up and coming smaller companies that you could have banked heavily off of. It was just doomed to fail. And I know Parallax is like, no, Parallax is like, let them die. I was like, a part of me wants them to die, but another part of me is like, no, you need competition out there.
Yeah, because when you get one distributor, it kind of it monopolizes it, and then it's kind of the situation with Diamond. The big distributor makes it hard for other distributors to compete, and then they get to decide what happens. And for newer people trying to come in, that can be hard. Especially if you can't, if you say you have to have so many, sell so many copies, and you're just starting out. It's like, well, it's like, it's one of the reasons I hate talking to investors, because it's like, I can't tell you what's going to happen until it hits the shelves, until it's on Amazon, until people start picking it up and reading it and talking to other people. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't, I don't have a crystal, eeny beanie, chili beanie. The spirits aren't about to speak to me.
You try to make me say that word, because those people, they will find a metric. And this is why I despise marketing. They will find metrics based upon, oh yeah, our mailing list is showing that it's trending this way. We sent emails about this. It's been open so many different times. We've been getting emails back on these types of things. So when it does hit shelf, we predict this. I was like, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's never accurate.
People
Never.
are going to respond because not everybody's going to respond to your questions honestly.
Thank you.
And also, until a book hits the shelves, they themselves don't know. They really don't. People don't know what they're going to fall for until they see it. I was surprised. I didn't expect to like Wicked. I was like, uh-huh, yeah, right. I like the original Wizard of Oz. I'm not going for revisionist story. Thank you, bye. And then I saw it and was like, oh wow, okay, that's way better than I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
you know, um, so you don't know until you know, and you can only, you can make guesses, educated and otherwise, but till things actually happen, you really don't. You can't get up and say. And just because book, it's like Aliens. That first Alien first came out, and then everybody and his mama was trying to make an alien dupe. And the only one that came anywhere near to being enjoyable was Creature. And Creature didn't get the build up that Alien got. And people forget a lot of, they had to be careful originally when marketing Alien because
Mhm.
they weren't sure how people were going to take it. And in regards to a sci-fi film, it was very different from what we thought of as as a sci-fi creature feature. It was very different. you know it was one of those films like Star Wars that became the game changer in
See,
regard.
now you made me think about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, a lot of those films were the game changers. People may laugh at those movies, but Freddie and Jason, built the cottage industry.
Well, that's the whole thing. Because when you think about the concept of Friday the 13th, especially dealing with Freddy Krueger, it's far fetched,
Oh, very.
very far fetched. And it's just like nobody would go for that. That doesn't sound scary until they produced it and they did it, and it was like they got something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. I was old and I have memory.
Yeah. I used to say the same thing about Saw into Saw 3. They had something with Saw, but they ruined it in 3. Well, yeah, they really ruined it in 3.
I think sometimes these movies, and with the creators especially, you have that one good story to tell, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. But the studio, and this is what I'm saying about the bean counters,
See,
the people who don't
see, Parallax, not me.
understand or appreciate the creative process and are just about what made money last week
Mhm.
and how to replicate it.
Now, if you are thinking along those lines and you want to, Hollywood loves to examine itself. I mean, if you're going to have a movie that it gets Oscar noms, a lot of times it has something to do with
The
or,
filming.
or filmmaking industry. Or okay, so um, the thing about the substance is it mercilessly cuts apart that cottage industry, what sells, and body image for women,
Mhm.
um, and it does it in a very, very visceral, horrific way. So, but it the last act is really bizarre. So, people that liked Videodrome, it reminded me in times of just that was so cutting edge and it was just weird. It has that kind of a flavor to it. So, like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you want to see Hollywood taking some real hard hits at the way its mentality works. So,
But
Well,
it's also that, you know, in the early days, there was an understanding that this was not going to be everybody's joint. which is why, MGM was known for their musicals because they knew how to put on a musical. The guys who came up through MGM had come up under Busby Berkeley. They had worked on Astaire and Rogers movies and stuff. So when when MGM decided, hey, we're going to do these Cavalcade of Stars things and these musicals and stuff, people forget MGM did something that when studios, they could lose money on the film.
Good point, Carl. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Even then, they had to be careful because certain directors, like DeMille, could get up and do the big spectacle picture, and what people forget is Hollywood used to have 3 tiers of filmmaking. You had the little low budget picture, which everybody cut their teeth on, whether you were an actor, a director, a producer. Everybody started with the little cheapy films. You had the big budget spectacles, the big stars and whatnot. And then you had the mid-ground films. And it was the mid-ground films that were the studio's bread and butter. Those were the films that paid the bills. Those were the films that made the stars. But then as we got into around mid-70s, 80s, suddenly there was a shift, not necessarily in audiences, but in the people making the decisions. Everybody wanted to be known for having the next big thing.
Blockbusters.
Yes.
Summer blockbusters.
And as much as I love Spielberg, as much as I love Lucas and those guys, in a way, Spielberg especially, he kind of helped strangle the industry. Because while he loved movies, everybody wanted the next Spielberg flick or somebody who could pick their version of the next Spielberg flick. And as a result, you had the little indies doing the low budget stuff. And then you had the studios doing more and more of the big budget stuff. And as they started doing more and more of the big budget stuff, the mid budget stuff started to shrink. So studios these days,
for a second,
they don't do as much mid budget.
I want to challenge that thought here, and the only reason I want to challenge it is like maybe the shift really wasn't because of who was saying yes or no. Maybe the shift was the mid-tier movies became household names out of nowhere in the 70s. Because when you truly think about the 70s, you had things like Rocky that became a household name. That was technically a mid-tier movie that became a household name.
Actually, it was low budget. It was low budget. It wasn't mid-tier. It was very low budget. He had to. Stallone had
a lot of the
low
budget movies became household names. You had that. You had El Mariachi. You had thing you just mentioned it a second ago. Star Wars was mid-tier. All of these movies that were mid-tier or low became household names. The spectacles now wasn't holding as high as value as these lower budget movies because the studios were making money hand over fist. It opened up the door for more independent movies to come in and to be shown and to be proven to have some value at that point. Because that's one of the things that I always thought about when it got to like the 80s and 90s. The invention of the personal handheld movie camera when you could do your own VHS tapes became more of a thing to spark the creativity of younger film creators. And then when you got nowadays, you got cell phones that could do just about what a regular movie camera could do. You got all these new people who haven't studied the craft going out there and making movies. And whether it be good, bad, or indifferent.
It's like that to me is also a problem because you have people who really don't understand the craft. And whenever I hear somebody tell me, oh, I want to learn how to be a filmmaker, I say, you know what? Invest money in the Lord of the Rings trilogies and then watch all the appendices. And then, like, why? It's like, because the appendices of those three films, even The Hobbit, are a masterclass in how to make a movie. Because they take you through every aspect, what it was like to work on the script, what it was like, in fact, especially with Fellowship of the Ring, because of the story of how they had to sell it. They talk about that. They take you through all these aspects of what it was like to design the costumes, make costumes, put the sets together. They may not take you through the minutia, but they give you enough of an overview so you have an understanding of what it takes to get something like this off the ground. And then you can adjust it to whatever your budget is, but you know what the steps are. You have an understanding of it. I think because I see it in certain writing groups on Facebook. There are a lot of people who get into these writing groups, and there are times where I've had to not respond because the posting they made is like, oh, you don't know the first thing about what it takes to be a writer, because you're asking people in the group to develop your character for you. You've run into a snag on your story, and now you want us to fix it.
Well, no, they don't have to worry about any of that. They have AI they can use instead of.
I still rather use a monkey and a typewriter instead of AI. Sorry.
But what I'm saying is I see it a lot where people are like, they're trying to get that next big thing, and it's like, you haven't. There was one woman, she was talking about going through. She was upset that the agency had sent her script through wasn't offering to edit it for her. And she didn't want to pay for an editor, and she didn't know how to start. And I said, you know what? I have a bookcase. In my bookcase, I have at least 2 to 3 books just on writing. Go to a university in the freshman bookshop. They have books there on writing, just the basics. And then get a copy of an Oxford Dictionary. You can do it online. Get the Oxford Dictionary and a thesaurus. And then, whenever people say, I want to learn how to write, it's like, learn how to read first. Because we have a lot of, I hear a lot of people, I read a post about a month ago, people were complaining about not being able to read and understand Catcher in the Rye. And I'm thinking, really? Catcher in the Rye? You can't read and understand Catcher in the Rye? Okay. You must have never read Shakespeare.
Oh, don't get them started with Shakespeare. Oh no.
It's like, or what, you've never read, and I realize those people have never read A Clockwork Orange. They've never read any Shakespeare. They've never read Chaucer. My sophomore year of high school,
they never read Homer.
See, in comic books, this is a weakness of, into the Silver Age. Before the Silver Age and before, a lot of the people that were writing had studied writing, and they had read mythology. They were really well read.
Yes.
And then you had a generation that came into the comic book field that had read, as young people, comic books. And they also, some of them went to college and read, but they weren't trained classic literature. And you could kind of feel it, as you get into the Bronze Age, that a lot of the professionals loved comics as children, bring that love to the medium. But as far as having a deep understanding of literature and character, and not as much, I think. My own opinion, but
in part, that's part of, I'm a Black woman, born and raised in Chicago, 1961. When I was in school, English was spelling. You got judged on penmanship. You also had to take phonics and reading comprehension, as well as composition. English, when they said we had English, all of those things were separate classes within that. And we had readers. The first Bradbury I ever read was The Other Foot from the Martian Chronicles. It was in my third grade reader. You know, once you got past Dick and Jane, they used to put some serious stories in our readers, bits of, you know, from anthologies and stuff. You had great pieces
Secret
of
of
literature.
Nim.
You know,
I remember that. I remembered that after Dick and Jane because they had us reading parts of Secrets of Nim.
You know,
And I was in like second and third grade.
And I will say, in a way, I was weird because I had teachers who was like, "Hey, Elaine, you like, I got teachers who are like, you ever read mythology?" And it was like, "What's mythology? It's something to be read." And it's like, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. You know, I've read, by the time I was eighth grade, I'd read the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'd read Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, A Midsummer's Night Dream. I'd read A Tale of Two Cities, you know, as well as A Christmas Carol, but I'd read A Tale of Two Cities, Bleak House. You know, I had read I think I even took a crack at Anna Karenina. So, you know, because it was like I would, you know, we'd have a 45-minute class and I'd be done with the assignment in 15 minutes. And I'd have 30 minutes to spare. And I had teachers like, okay, and I would just sort of sit there because you weren't supposed to be doing things that would disturb the other children. And I had teachers who would come and say, "Okay, here's a book, Elaine, read it." You know, I went through books the way certain individuals go through McDonald's cheeseburgers. You know, but I guess I was lucky, but we also, you know, when I couldn't get books at school, I had teachers going, "Go to the library and find this, and then come back and tell me what you thought of it." You know, so by the time by the time I was in eighth grade, I was reading at a senior level in high school. So by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was reading at a sophomore in college level. And I was a Black child going into public school with a lot of Black teachers, another Black kids, you know. And if the guys who like math, there were teachers like, "Here, we're going to take you, you know, in high school, we're going to teach you how to do computer stuff." I didn't get to be part of the computer group.
Yeah, that happened.
You know, I just knew they put out Playboy catalogs once a year. They would put out with a calendar of Playboy models using X and O's, and guess where they put them X's? You know, but so when people say, "Well, public," it's like, no, because I went through public education. And I had a teacher who made me sit down and read the opening section of the Canterbury Tales in Middle English and then translate it into modern English. So we were taught, you know, I have people say educate. It's like, no, I had a public education. I didn't have money for college. I had a public education. And from there, I went into the Marines. You know, it was there if you would open yourself up to it. And there were libraries and stuff. I was a little girl. At least a couple of times a year, we went to the Museum of Science and Industry, went to the Field Museum of Natural History, went to the Art Institute. So we had culture.
That Don was saying that, and I wanted to say it's like the only reason why Elaine and I get along so well is because we had opposite experiences in public school. And my opposite is that teachers made me hate English.
Oh no!
No. When it came to writing, they made me hate it. Especially if they was like they made me like, it's like it got to the point where it's almost like, we want you to regurgitate what we told you as opposed to what you think and what you saw. And if you go against us, we're going to hammer you so much about the grammar and everything that it was discouraging. Now, mind you, they already brought me over because of the whole thing about math. but I struggled with English, especially with composition and especially with English lit, because I would read something, I would get a different interpretation of what was going on, and the teachers would get mad. Because again, they wanted to teach the students to regurgitate what they know, not to have a different opinion other than what was there. It wasn't until college that I understood that it's like, no, you were right, you were just taught wrong. I had to go through different professors that pulled me over to the side to say, you got great ideas and you're seeing things right. We just need to get your grammar and everything,
your mechanics down. Yeah. Yeah. As a rule, kid, and coming from a lower middle class background, didn't have a lot of funds, but the library became a big thing. Sixth grade teacher that got us into reading anthologies, like you were talking about, really changed my perspective. But I got to also hand it to Scholastic Books, because they introduced me to science fiction, like the Star Trek James Blish adaptations. I read Cornbread Earl and Me because it was a Scholastic book,
That's right.
Yeah. So I had and my mom, even though we didn't have a lot of money, she always made sure I had money for Scholastic books. That was something I could always get a stack of those when they had a book fair. So like you said, Elaine, it was out there if you could, get access to it and kind of go on your own. But then I also had some excellent teachers. It happened a little bit later than what you guys are talking about, like I said, 5th and 6th grade, but they also kind of filled in the gaps to make me a reader and a writer. So,
well, my introduction as a writer was rocky, because I started writing poetry, and I think the first full-length poem I ever wrote, the first poem I wrote, I got a little pewter cup. The teacher had came in and he was a substitute. He goes, okay, I want you guys to write a composition. The title is called It's on My Mind. That's all I'm going to give you. Go. And I wrote this little poem. And he gave me this little pewter cup. He goes, oh, that was so good. And I was so proud, ran home. Mom, look, I got a pewter cup because I did the assignment. I wrote a poem instead of the composition. And she was like, did he say write a poem? I said, no, it just decided it was a poem. She hated it.
Oh.
She was so that if I got praise for something by a teacher, she hated it. It was, I was in band and orchestra. She hated it.
Yeah, I have to say that you must steal your education. Schools do not help the advanced students. There's for the medium students. I would agree. If I told people about my experience, especially in like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, they would not believe me, because I was afforded opportunities. Like one of the things is when Walt Disney finally opened up their school here, because originally Walt Disney was
Disney
a private
Middle
school here. I was able to go there for like a 2-month period, and that's how I got into things like drama and all the other stuff there, because of the way that my math scores and stuff were. Because at 4th and 5th grade, I was doing mathematics on the level of like a 12th grader of high school.
Ooh, nice.
And see, Joe and I are opposites, because while he was having trouble with English and he was a math genius, I was good at English and reading comprehension, and I sucked at math.
I had teachers like Joe had for English for my math. That's why, I am not the guy you want to do your books.
I also failed home economics. I failed typing and home economics. It was, and I actually had the high school, the last time I took a typing class, my instructor said, sweetie, if you have to make money with your typing skills, you're going to starve and die. It was like, dang. And I failed home economics twice, first in middle school and then in high school.
Wow.
I was cooking. That was the thing. I was cooking full meals at home, but we didn't cook Welsh rarebit at home. You know, it was like, is that a grilled cheese sandwich? Here, let me show you a grilled cheese sandwich. Take your cheese, put the bread, butter, grilled cheese sandwich. You know, here's some
Where's the
tomatoes.
garnishment?
You
What the
know,
hell is a garnishment? What the hell is a garnishment?
but
I
you
can see
know,
a way doing something like that. What the hell is a garnishment?
they would have these recipes for things that I would look at, and I realized they were from the Betty Crocker 1950s cookbook that for young girls growing up in the west and south side of Chicago were not what we were cooking. You know, I knew how I could scale, I could gut and scale fish by the time I was 8 years old because the babysitter I had, um, her son or someone she knew had caught a bunch of catfish and had some extra and brought her some. And she said, "You know what? I can't do this all alone, all on my own." She said, "Elaine, sit down. I'm gonna show you how to scale and gut catfish." And so that's how I learned. You know, I knew how to shell peas because Miss Lula would say, "Hey, you look bored. Sit here and shell these peas." Or I'm gonna make a pot of I'm gonna make some black eyed peas. I'm gonna make some pinto beans. Sit here and go through the beans because you would sometimes get a bag of beans and have little rocks and stuff. So you would, or you had to cook greens. You had to learn how to clean them properly, so you wouldn't have, so somebody wouldn't get a bug in their mouth when they were eating greens. I learned practical cooking that way, you know, but home ec didn't teach that, and I can't sew to save my soul. I just can't, you know. That's not my wheelhouse. So you know, there were practical things that I sucked at in school, you know. Get up and ask me about Chaucer, get up and ask me about Shakespeare, get up and ask me about Sappho, you know. And part of that was because back in the day they used to have these books called what is it? Classics Illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I had teachers who was like, here's everything Dickens wrote that Classic Illustrated has done, you know. You know, I read all of Dickens that way. I started reading Charles Lewis Stevenson that way, and then as I got older I started getting the actual books to read.
I did the same thing. I would see a Classics Illustrated and I would read a little bit of it, and I don't know, when I was comic book and I wanted superheroes, I didn't, you know, it's like, okay, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's interesting. I like horror. Okay. But then I would look up the book. I'd go find the book and read it, or the novella or whatever. But
But you know, it was for me, it was just that, you know, it was like watching Star Trek the first time at 6 years old. It was like mind blown that, you know, it was words and pictures, and it made me think. And I would make up little, you know, I would watch Star Trek or Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea or whatnot, and I was an insomniac at 7. So to get to sleep, I would make up little stories in my head.
The what if got you, didn't it?
Yeah, it was what I call the what if engine. And, you know, and I would like tell myself stories in my head and then get myself to go to sleep that way.
Looks like Aaron is here. So
hey,
that's a good thing. Yep, he dropped in.
Hey, Aaron.
So
we're just talking about our psychoses.
So we're into the second hour. So
it is.
Yeah, we were in. I was like, I don't have a review, and I'm not certain if anybody else does. So.
I do. This has been a hell of a week.
Okay, I've got one.
Yeah.
Oh, Clyde got one. Okay, so
it's Clyde.
Actually, it was inspired by yours last week, Joe.
Really? You go to do issue 3?
No, no, it's not the same character, but the review covers where it went from your review to me thinking about a character to going, oh, he's been popping up, and so is this guy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but you were one of about 3 little instances where I was like, oh, yeah, that leads me to.
I'm part of 6 degrees of separation. Yay!
You are. So whenever you're ready, I can.
All right. Here we go. The gold standard is about to speak.
All right. So last couple of weeks, and the whole diamond thing has made comic shops around the country kind of hit and miss as far as things coming in late. Some things showing up at odd times. So this is the stuff from the last couple of weeks that were interesting to me. These are all good reads, some better than others, but we had a new issue of Red Coat, and we have we're seeing the magic in the history of America through the eyes of Simon Pure, who has been here since the Revolutionary War. And this issue is about Johnny Appleseed, who I've always liked as a historical figure. And we're seeing how tendrils of magic connect different characters. So good Johnny Appleseed story. It further shows us this network of magic connected to the land of America. So once more, another good Ghost Machine title, as is Hyde Park or Hyde Street number 3. Yeah, we get a story, but we also get interaction with Mr. X and Pranky, the world's. And this is a little late for Christmas, but it's a Christmas story. And it's really good. It works very well with those two characters kind of teaming up, which is highly unusual, but you get more of that good Hyde Street art and horror.
Cool.
Aaron said he's been hearing good things about Ghost Machine.
I'm sorry?
Aaron said he's been hearing good things about Ghost Machine.
It is. It's and Hyde Street's my favorite so far, I think, of all of it, just because in a time when there are a lot of horror anthology books, this one gives me something new and different. Like we had another one of the Epitaphs from the Abyss, which is EC, done by Oni. Nothing wrong at all with it. The first couple issues were really good, but now it seems like it's more kind of. I read the first couple pages and I'm like, I wonder if it'll end like this, and it does. And then I read the next story and I go, that's an interesting premise. I wonder if it'll end like this. And it does.
Formulaic. So it got too formulaic for you.
Kinda at times. There's still issues that come out that aren't like that. So it's kind of hit and miss right now. But Hyde Street brings it Hyde Street brings it every time. So Space Ghost continues to David Pepos. I'm a fan. It was one of my favorite reads of last year. And he continues every issue to build on what's come before, build on what the TV show introduced, but this for a more mature audience and more mature stories, but keeping the spirit of the fun and the adventure of Space Ghost alive.
And it's got my monkey.
Yeah, and it's got your monkey. Yeah, and he's a MacGuffin. He's a plot point that ties all these stories together. Mm-hmm. So I have not forgotten. I kind of overlooked that the last few issues, but I haven't forgotten. He's instrumental to everything. So Wonder Woman number 4. Absolute Wonder Woman number 4.
I'm about to say, get it right. Absolute, not Absolute Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman number 4 been gone and passed.
Yeah, but Joe, you haven't read number 4 yet?
I haven't read 4 yet. No, okay. I haven't got my copy of 4 yet.
This continues to be my favorite Absolute book. Others are, the Superman one is getting close to this, but so far Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman, is my favorite of the Absolute books, and I think it's the best overall. Others have good points about them, but as far as the art, and I know there are some people I know that like the story, but they don't care for the art. I think that the art is really, really good.
It's blended well with the storytelling, and that's what I constantly makes me cringe about when people's like, I don't like the art. It's like, would you read the story if the art was different? Probably not. It's like, then shut up.
yeah, exactly. It is different. It's unique, but I like that about it. And the story is not as far removed from the characters as the other Absolutes, I don't think, but the changes are vital and the art is part of that. So okay, and Justice League Unlimited, we're still seeing all the characters build up. By the way, there's your
Plastic Man.
Yep. And this is one of my favorite reads of the week. Every time it comes out, it has a lot of adventure and action, but it's also got a slow burn as to what there's somebody plotting against them at the height of Justice League power of this I've never seen them so organized in their approach to combating threats, both natural and enemies, and yet somebody's using that all against them. And we're not sure who it is yet. So, yeah, good stuff. But what I'm going to review is Metamorpho, the Element Man.
Ooh,
we got issues 1 and 2.
He was one of the people that we talked about from last week.
Yes. Well, he and Plastic Man were part of the Terrifics together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the first 2 issues. The second one had come out, and I was like, I miss Metamorpho. I like the Outsiders. I like the Titan, the Terrifics, and I was like, I'm going to get the first 2 issues, read them, and see what. And this is an ongoing title, by the way. Written by Al Ewing, of all people, of Immortal Hulk
fame. I think I read of his.
And it's an all-in title, so I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm going to pick up these first 2. So it's published, of course, DC Comics. The cover price are $3.99 for both issues. Writer's Al Ewing. The art is Steve Lieber. The colors are by Lee Lowridge, and letters by Ferran Delgado. So if you've ever missed a comic book character the same way that you miss an old friend that you haven't seen in years, that's kind of the way I was feeling about Metamorpho. Seeing the Superman trailer, there's a glimpse of Metamorpho in there. Joe reviewed Plastic Man No More last week, and there's a connection with Metamorpho and Plas serving on Terrifics. And then again, Plastic Man popped up in this issue of Justice League Unlimited, along with Phantom Girl, and they were talking about their terrific days. And I'm like, yeah, Metamorpho, yeah. They talked about their former teammates, including him. So then I recalled that DC just launched a new ongoing Metamorpho series, and it was time to get reacquainted with the Element Man. So this new run, Al Ewing, Immortal Hulk fame, I thought 1 or 2 things about it before actually diving into the book. I wondered if he would give the Element guy a horror treatment the way he had done the Hulk. Kind of hoping that he did, because, there's some really scary stuff about being Metamorpho. Even the source of his power is the Orb of Ra, which is, a mystical element, a mystical item, and could be truly frightening. I remember an issue of Shazam where we got to see the original holder of the Orb of Ra killing innocents in wholesale lots with his powers of the elements.
Ooh.
So I thought, okay, Ewing could go there. Then I considered maybe Ewing would be following the Gunniverse script points and kind of maybe getting readers ready for the iteration of Metamorpho that's going to be big screening of the new Superman film. Both of those seemed equally likely, but I got something very different. Unless it's a screen test Metamorpho going for something very old school in this upcoming film, this feels like an all Ewing flight of fancy recapturing the earliest appearances of Rex Mason as Metamorpho in the comics. The setting may be modern DC continuity, modern times, and yet Ewing is serving up us big slices of Silver Age snack cake with cast intros and very far out turns of beatnik phraseology, man, to get totally down with all you cool cats, you daddios of the Rad Radios and the Red Hot Mamas. And we so dig it, man. Right from the start, we have the cast of characters shown. I'll show you some of the artwork here too. But you have the cast of characters, all explained in that same kind of cool retro vibe, the way they would have been back in the early years of the Fraden artwork era and stuff. We get some pretty exciting, I guess, action sequences. This has also got Raina, the Element Girl, in there too. I really like this cover. Speaking of the 60s vibe, they're a band. They're a rock band. And we get I don't know. It seems like all the action sequences also have the Element Girl in them, which I guess that's okay. Um, it's I don't remember them teaming up in the original issues that much, but she keeps popping up that way. And then we also get Java, who's like the Neanderthal security guard, bodyguard. I thought that was a really interesting picture of him.
Yeah.
They always kind of played him for just humor before, but you kind of get a feeling of a guy. You kind of feel for him with that expression on his face in that image. Like I say, so we can like really get down and dig it, man, unless we don't. And I gotta admit, those early Metamorpho tales were a whole other kind of bizarre that I could have done without as a kid. Great Ramona Frieden art, interesting science lessons regarding elements and chemistry. But the wonky character cast of adventures were Rex Mason, who's like a very bohemian Race Bannon, the heiress and jet setter girlfriend of Sapphire Stagg, the paterfamilias and corrupt tycoon Simon Stagg, and Stagg's permafrosted but then revived Neanderthal bodyguard Java. There's definitely a 60s counterculture vibe under the surface of those original adventures, coupled with an offbeat sense of humor that is akin to Plastic Man in the Spirit, but that I never enjoyed quite as much as those two. So picture all that, but mixed in with smartphones and the internet. And not a few cameos from other Silver Age DC folks like Prince Ramon, Vandal Savage, the Mad Mod, and, as we said, Raina the Element Girl. Ewing seems to be having fun with the concept, and he has a mysterious big bad that's connected with all these characters, striking from out of the shadows at each one of them. He starts off with Rex as Metamorpho. He attacks him directly by Mr. 3, a fellow who has Orb of Raw level abilities that he uses to keep Rex from taking cohesive forms. In the second issue, the Mad Mod is set to undermine the online influencer success of Sapphire. All of this is at the behest of some enemy that's sticking to the shadows for now. It's hinted that this villain has a long-standing score to settle, so maybe an ancient Egyptian baddie envious that the Orb of Ra isn't in his or her possession. But that doesn't exactly track for a correct because reasons modus operandi as the villain is being eked out for us to see either. So I'm not really sure who's pulling all the strings. And if you're going to go back further than Vandal Savage, you're going away. So I don't know. The good. Ewing does bring that swinging 60s vibe back full force. If you're a fan of those first Metamorpho tales that I've described, and their disc jockey rant of coffee houses and jazz quartet accompanied patter, you'll have a blast from the past. If you have a lot of chemistry, if you like chemistry, and if you like element tables, there's a lot of inventive ways a superhero with insights to both can weaponize himself. There's one where Raina, Rex Mason's going, hey, I'm going to take this form, but he's impeding our ability to take other forms. So Raina, you take this form. Okay, but why? Because together with fire, we just made plasma. Ooh. Really, that was
Wonder Twins activate.
That was a really fun little bit. And Ewing does that. Nobody does. Well, he's a great writer, and nobody writes that kind of stuff better than him. Brings it full force. He also manages integrating new social networking and tech advancements into that same rustic era mainstream, and makes some interesting observations from what I would consider our parents' or grandparents' perspective regarding current culture. If you could never get enough of Java's unrequited love for Sapphire and the way in which the caveman continuously worked at trying to undermine her romance with Rex, you'll be in for four-color heaven here, because we get a lot of that. If you like Simon Stagg as the unscrupulous, oily billionaire, welcome home. If you like mysteries deeply rooted in the obscure corners of DC continuity, you, my friend, have hit probably the triple crown of comic book excellence here. The bad. If none of the above is your cup of tea, you're all that with a family-sized bag of chips, um, and in fact instead gives you migraine-level Groob Crush, this book likely will not be a good fit for you. Steve Lieber art, I have to say, I didn't think it helped launch readers over that hurdle either. He's a an Eisner-winning artist, mostly on humor books, and characters like Plaz and Metamorpho, along with Clayface and a few others. To me, they should rock the pages and the panels with nigh into three-dimensional renderings. And Lieber's character expressions are quite good, but the superheroing elements are mostly flat. If you looked at the action sequences, I said kind of action because they are flat and they're lifeless.
Okay.
If Marvel ever
Yeah.
brings back the Liberty Legion, Lieber could kill on rendering the Thin Man. But his talents seem kind of misaligned here for the most part. To me, that's personal observation about it. But now, this was a switch. Usually in the bad section, there's at least a passing note that this version of the character isn't the classic one you grew up on, as a negative point possibly for some readers. But no, you always brought back Metamorpho that you absolutely grew up on in the Silver Age. So, you know, but if you caught his act in more recent venues like the Terrifics or the Outsiders, this could not impress you. I remember in the later version of the Outsiders where the Metamorpho running around wasn't Rex. It was something that grew out of him. It was another Metamorpho. I thought that was a really cool story element. So if you like that kind of thing, this might not be your cup of tea. The takeaway. In its first two issues, this title establishes a deep, I'll call it a reverence for the initial character of Rex Mason as Metamorpho, and a fondness for the strange cast of characters surrounding him in that era of his creation. And this book makes that era live again. What readers have to decide in their own subjective views are, should it? For me, the starting points of this series have been like visiting an old friend, but one who's living a second childhood that isn't as interesting as later versions of him, and tinged with cringe of an oldster still trying to sound hip, using the language of past generation. Opinions will probably vary widely, but for being true to the spirit of the character, and for updating his setting complete with sarcastic views on modern culture, and for building up a decent mystery for us DC Jessica Fletchers to try to solve, Metamorpho the Element Man issues 1 and 2 get my rating of 7.5 out of 10 ancient Egyptian artifacts not connected directly to wizards or nth metal so far as we know yet.
I'm still trying to understand why. Oh, the camera went up here. I'm trying to understand why you went with a Murder She Wrote reference.
With a what now?
Murder She Wrote reference with Jessica Fletcher.
Because she's an older sleuth.
Yeah.
And I think that the mystery, because of all that it's couched in, would appeal to older sleuths of DC continuity.
I got it.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying that people won't get it. I'm just like, that was just kind of like, wow, that kind of like going out there, like reaching deep into the archives for that.
Well, you know, I will apologize. This is my fault. Me and the Wayback Machine has, you know, we've had a bad influence. Bad doggy. And clean that up, boy. You pooped on my floor. Clean it up. Sorry.
But
Sherman.
it is coming. It is coming soon. That's book 3.
Yes. Yes. And I don't know. I kind of expected, because of the tone that book had, I thought Ewing would do that. Would do something like that. But no, it's
you have to be mindful that Plastic Man No More is Black Label. So because it's Black Label, it's going to have a different tone.
Yeah,
now,
but I thought I could still see Ewing doing a PG-13 version of it, maybe. You know, but
this Plastic Man No More, it peaks. It wants me to. It's like why can't they have a ongoing Plastic Man series, especially now after what happened here?
Yeah.
Either that or really trying to play up his son Luke. I forgot what his code name is, but I forgot
Offspring?
what it. Huh?
Offspring?
Yes.
The next generation. Sorry, couldn't help.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that he really tries to pick up Patrick's, aka Eel's, mantle. I mean, he really tries his best to, but there's no Eel. There's no other replacement for Eel.
True.
And that it even shows it in Plastic Man No More. It's like some of the stuff that he does, it makes sense to the average person. And kind of like a spoiler in this issue, what drove him to leave Justice League in this issue made perfect sense, especially if you're knowing that you're on your deathbed and everybody is dismissing what's going on up under your command. And they want to downplay it, like we lost most of the team. It's like, I don't lose people. We have our main component. Y'all taking credit for the success of maintaining X, Y, and Z and the fact that we stopped the bomb. But you're downgrading the fact that we got the main person that we needed to keep alive, which was uranium. We averted a catastrophe in doing the mission. But yet, because we lost some other metal men, now you're going to downplay my leadership ability. It would tell it like it is. And that's one of the reasons why I like him. It's like he was a criminal. He had his redemption. He's 100% on this hero tip. But I just don't understand why others of his ilk, or at least some of the more major characters of his ilk, treats him so bad. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He understands going to war. That's why I love the way that Injustice 2 made him. It's like, yeah, he's one of the most dangerous men to Superman because Superman finally understood. You don't want to fight him.
Now,
you really want to fight him because he thinks.
On that same note, comic shop talk. We've all seen the trailer for Superman, the new Superman movie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Shop talk. Well, I can't believe they're going to bring Doomsday in again, just right from the start. Because who else could do that to Superman? And then others go, no, Lex Luthor could probably do that if he had the right kind of stuff behind him. And I'm thinking, because of the Plastic Man comment, what if Metamorpho becomes Kryptonite? What if he is set to take him on, because the force that they are representing in the heroes altogether are not the Justice League necessarily. They're, a Stag or or Luthor or anybody could kind of push them that direction of, we need to get rid of him. He's an impediment to some of our plans. And you guys work for us, so, okay. Or, Mason, we have this hanging over your head. We can restore you. We can make you the way you used to be. But you're going to have to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. If I end up being right, I will remind you.
Well,
Probably not. I'm probably way off base.
I give you a standing ovation on that comment.
I always think of that animated Justice League movie where Batman, they've all been attacked, and it turns out that the culprit is Batman. Well, in part is Batman. Mirror Man has gotten into Batman's computer and found his file on how to take out everybody if they should lose it. He had a contingency plan.
Batman always has a plan.
Yeah. And because when you see him in the opening of those credits and he's bloodied and he's laying in the snow and it's like, ooh, did Batman get, did Batman get some gauntlets made and whoop your butt for you? I mean,
see, Metamorpho is a product of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you took a piece of kryptonite and said, become that, Element Man, he should be able to do it.
Yeah, he should be able to become living kryptonite. Because it's like, because I was sitting there, I remember
magical living kryptonite.
And Superman doesn't have that, and maybe they've made changes, but in the classic Superman, magic was the one thing he didn't have much protection from.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of times if it was something magic involved, he had to get Zatanna to help him, because that was something his powers had he didn't counter well on his own. And Batman's logic wasn't going to help here. So he would go and he would get Zatanna to help him. But it was, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, and John first saw it, and of course, he got happy because Crypto.
Yeah, me too. I do.
Yeah, my youngest loves the hell out of Crypto. The super
Stop complaining.
He loves him some. He loves the last Crypto movie, the Super Pets. John just the Crypto Superdog series. I mean, it's one of those things where he looks at certain dogs and he looks at me. It's like, I don't think that dog can fly. I don't think that one flies, John. He wants a flying, talking. He either wants Crypto. He wants a dog that's a combination of Crypto and Scooby-Doo.
Well, that's a good combination.
Yeah,
it's better than having Ace and Mr. Peabody.
I don't know. I think Mr. Peabody would be damn good. I think, okay, Ace is a bit of a headache. I would think that. Ace is a bit of a headache, but don't you talk bad about Mr. Peabody. I know where you live.
I could see him going around Mr. Peabody and accepting being called boy all day long.
I'm sorry. Anybody who's familiar with Critical Role, the last season, they hit upon this one character. Keyleth had to have her moment against one of that season's baddies, and in the tabletop, Matt Mercer was doing this baddie and kept calling Keyleth child, and at one point, I guess Marisha May got tired of hearing child be his agency. She was like, if you call me child one more goddamn time. It's like, and so when they were showing it in the animated series, we're all sitting there going, come on, and that was the one thing they didn't give us this year. We're like, dang. But I don't know. I think if I had to go down to it, Mr. Peabody going against, I think Peabody would win. I'm sorry.
Peabody versus whom?
Ace. I think Peabody could take Ace.
Peabody would definitely take Ace. Peabody could probably almost take Crypto.
I think Peabody would make really good friends with Crypto. I think he would use the Wayback Machine, find Ace as a puppy, and drop an anvil on him. And that would be the end of it. It'd be like, oh, look, Sherman, anvil fell and hit that poor puppy. Oh well, let's go have muffins.
I would go one step further. Mr. Peabody would trick Crypto to go into the Wayback Machine with him and go back to Krypton.
Oh,
that's like, we're the save now. Let's go.
No, I think if Crypto got into the Wayback Machine, I don't think Crypto in the Wayback Machine would be good, because I think if Crypto got into the Wayback Machine with Peabody, he would drag Peabody to the science group to see if he couldn't help them save Krypton. I think Crypto would do what he could to have Peabody help save Krypton. I just kind of think he would do that.
Because the Science Council would definitely listen to a talking dog. Yeah.
Well, for no other reason than, how many talking dogs could talk on their level?
See, now you bring up an interesting dilemma.
That would be a great what if.
No. I got the what if for you. It wouldn't be to the Science Council. It would be, would he convince Mr. Peabody to go far enough back to stop them from activating Brainiac 1?
Oh, there you go.
Because remember, Krypton blew up mainly because Brainiac 1 proved that whatever was going on with Krypton for it being unstable was a figment.
But here's the question that kind of snaps that.
Mm-hmm.
And it even snaps mine. Because if there's no Brainiac 1, there's no Brainiac 5. If there's no Brainiac 5, there's no Legion of Superheroes.
But then again, if there is no Krypton, there could be no Kal-El, which means that there's no Superboy in the first place.
There's no Superboy in the first place. So, the universe would be, the galaxy would be, say, a slightly more dangerous place. Or sadder place.
But the thing is, the universe would be much dangerous, because if they did stop them from activating Brainiac 1, you would still have Kryptonians. What does a whole planet of Kryptonians could do across the DC universe?
And Daxamites.
How would you stop Zod in this case? Because there would be,
there was also the danger of Zod.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because Zod was in prison before the whole Brainiac bringing about the blowing up of Krypton.
No, so he wasn't in prison before the activation of Brainiac 1.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought he was
off planet, if I remember correctly, when they activated Brainiac 1.
But he wasn't in prison. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So and Zod loose in the universe. We've already seen that a version of that in the Justice League Unlimited, where Zod has formed his own cult, sort of, and gets out of the that place.
Phantom Zone?
Yeah, the Phantom Zone. He's got a cult in the Phantom Zone, but he does get out of it.
Because it makes me think about a lot of stuff. Like there would not be a volatilized Kandor. Kandor would still be its own city.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff it's like stopping Brainiac 1 would turn everything on its head.
Yeah. But the question then, would Darkseid have been as much of a danger? Because he'd had all of Krypton to contend with, not just Superman.
Well, here's the other thing. I would see Darkseid coming to Krypton in search of the anti-life equation instead of Earth.
But the thing is considering the brain trust of Krypton,
you have to understand,
they would have had a better
Red Sun
time of fighting him off.
But that's the thing, Red Sun. So they wouldn't have their powers. They would not have their powers.
They wouldn't have.
They would have to take the fight off. They have to take the fight outside of their universe in order to go toe to toe. Hand in hand.
They have to leave their solar system. But the Kryptonians are advanced enough a culture, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That technologically speaking, I think they could have given I think they could have given Darkseid a run for his money.
I believe they would have decrypted the mother box, the mother and father boxes.
And
they would have been able to really unleash what they could truly do.
Yeah, I think they could have. I think they were, once they'd gotten hold of those, it would have been game over, because they could have then they're smart enough, they would have been smart enough to be able to counter that.
That's a great point.
Okay.
Because again, if we're talking about Darkseid, old school Omega beams.
Okay.
You won't be able to stop it. You won't be able to stop Darkseid's Omega beam if you go old school Omega beam.
Yeah.
That's why I applaud the animated series so much about how Turpin died. Because in other animated movies, they will have Superman jump in front, and it will bounce off. And it's like, no, old school Omega beam. It's like, okay, fine, I'm going to save him. Around, hit him.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he set his eyes to, and he shoots him, it's not going to stop it.
That's right. There's no getting away from it.
And there's been people who try to outrun it across several universes, and it still hits them.
It's like the blue meanie bomb in Crash Team Racing.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, Orion is technically one of Darkseid's 3 sons. Orion, you have to understand, Orion was trained by the High Father, so he has a whole different level of training to deal with Darkseid. Metron, I agree. Metron knows how to defeat, the guy that just is. Metron understands that the Darkseid that most people see is nothing more than a construct. But the person who could go into the wall and understand what is going on inside the wall doesn't do anything. So she is right about that.
Okay, I'll give her that.
And they are gods. Well, technically they're not gods.
Yeah.
Technically they're not gods. But that's the way that Kirby made them into.
Yeah. Kirby had some interesting ways of creating. But, I think as a kid, that was kind of the interesting thing about comics, where you had these old, I love the fact that the, Asgardian Thunder God could become a superhero, or, Hercules was suddenly a superhero. You had, that you had that blending of, world mythologies and magic and
entire pantheons of gods and legends could have a human champion.
I'm sorry. That it's like, you're really stopping Darkseid. Only Batman can stop Darkseid.
Prep time. Yeah, Ace pop up behind him and catch him off guard.
One of the most interesting fights that I have seen in animated form was Trigon versus Darkseid.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Trigon. Oh, I gotta find that.
Trigon versus Darkseid, because they was up here trying to find a way to stop Darkseid. So they was up here, they kind of like trick Trigon and say, it's like, here, we'll give you a body for you to be in if you help us deal with Darkseid.
Come over here and fight this dude over here. We'll give you a body, dude.
We will give you a body as long as you help us do our bidding. And he tried to double cross it, and then Darkseid figured out, oh, really? It's like, oh, Kal-El and you cannot work together. I'm going to take advantage of this. And eventually he got to the point where he sealed off Trigon, but yet Kal-El was able to get his own mindset back and was able to defeat Darkseid. But Trigon and Kal-El together in one body, that's too much power. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't even see how
too much power.
I no. Just no.
I mean, if you wanted a big bad that is just as bad as Darkseid, Trigon will be it.
Yes.
But I don't think the magic he doesn't wield the demonic magic like he used to, or at least the threat is not the same.
I'm gonna have a book next week, because I am a critter, and Critical Role has put out several comic books based on their first series, Vox Machina, and volume 3 I just got hold of on Kindle, but you can also order a physical copy of it because it's put out by Penguin. And so I will be reading it this weekend. Oh, before I forget, did you see my post, Joe? Your picture?
Okay. Yes, you're still saying that you're working on it. You know how I am. I don't get upset. I don't get riled up or anything. It's like when it's done, it's done.
I just wanted to, if you had any comments, critiques,
I'm just waiting for the finished thing because it's like seeing it in progress. It's like I don't know where you're going to go with it at the very end. It's like I'm seeing, how it coming together.
Some people like the process. Some, and it's like, oh, as a fellow artist, I wonder what he'll think about it.
Yeah, and you got the little bee stripe peeking around the one little tree. And that's the one thing that I think people are not going to see in that picture, but I already saw it.
Well, once I get the pencils in, it'll be a little bit more. Right now, I'm just sort of blocking in all the main bits, trying to figure out what I want to add. Do I want to add more foliage at the front? But the original was you saw the tree, because it's this big birch tree, and he's sort of there, but there's enough stuff around him where he kind of blends in. And I was thinking, if you were in a situation like that, I mean, that's kind of the best, some of the best horror films are you don't see it endangered till it's damn near right on top of you. You go right by it, and then all of a sudden, hey there, little girl, what you doing in the woods? It's like, oh my God, 12-foot wolf, and he talks. So it's kind of that I wanted to give it that sort of, you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, look, ferns and trees and grass and stuff. And then, as you're looking through, it's like, oh, wait a minute, what's okay.
Need more layers, you said. It looks good thus far.
I've got the original layering now that the sketching and the original layering with water.
She's got a point.
The only person that could beat Darkseid and Brainiac teamed up is Brian K. Morris. No prep time needed.
I wonder we need Brian here so he could comment on that. One of you must take this comment to Brian so he can send word back on what he thinks. I don't want to do it because he might
be watching as we speak.
Hey, Brian, if you're watching, jump in. Let us know.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, so I'm gonna.
Ooh, colorful, go Laney when she saw
it. The Bruce never worked right.
No, she got jokes tonight. She's got jokes tonight.
Yeah, but I'm finding it's interesting because it's within the fandom for this group. There are those of us who started watching the live gameplay and have followed the group, and then there are those who are joining in because they love the animated series. And they are now they also have prints, they have books, they have Audible books, and they have the comics, and they're getting more fansmees, and I'm actually enjoying some of their written materials. I just read the audiobook of I didn't read it, I listened to the audiobook of Kith and Kin, and I enjoyed it. My current audiobook, for those who are curious, is Mist of Avalon, which I've read before and loved, and Audible gave it to me for free because I had a credit. Eventually I would like to get another physical copy of that book. I have all of her books from the Avalon series, but I don't have them all in print. So I have several Kindle editions and then I have a couple of print. But I also have to get another bookcase because we currently have I know most people don't realize it to look at us. We have about 300 books.
Only 200-300.
I don't have a lot of bookcases.
It's
So
never enough bookcases.
So and I don't
I got
like
a bookcase sitting right over here that has nothing but DVDs. And I have books that's up under here that's in Sterlite bins because there's not enough shelf space.
I know where you live, Joe. I will come punch you in the nose. Okay? So stop.
No,
And grab one of your bookcases.
There's never enough book space.
When we lived on the north side, it was a pre-war building, a little German neighborhood that have lovely, lovely deep windowsills. And I put books on all those windowsills. And it was wonderful. I don't like having my books boxed. And I don't like having them on the floor because every time then I've got to sweep them up. I got to pick up all these books and, it gets to be a headache. I want to have them out, and some books, I want them to be where people can see them, and go, ooh, look what she reads. And then other books like my Brian Froud's Fairies, I keep in my bedroom, and the only people, and even if you come in my bedroom and you hang out, you may not know that book is there because of where I have it. I don't have it where it sits, where it screams, hey! Because I'm, but like I said, eventually I would like to get at least a couple more, even if they're just short ones that sit under the pass-through between the studio and the kitchen, to put books, because I love books. I love having books, but I also want to make sure that the books, I've had books that have gotten ruined because they weren't stored properly. I've had comics that I've lost because they weren't stored properly. I was raising kids, and kids, grab things and they get destroyed. So I am now
when you have children, for anybody out there that does not yet have kids, but they have comic books and other collectibles, you have to do the high water mark. As the kids get old enough to crawl and climb up, everything gets moved up. And then once they get to be more like teenagers and probably don't care about anything that you're reading, it comes back down.
Or worse, you introduce your kids to the things that you love, and their stuff starts taking up as much space as your stuff.
You bring things back down, and then you have the grandkids, and then you have to go right back up to the. That's kind of where we're at right now.
It's like, I have my collection of stuff, but then Charles's room, because he's a gamer and he loves Gundams the way I love Gundams and stuff, and he's into manga and stuff, but we have had to seriously limit because there's only so much. We don't have enough stuff to put things on. We would put everything in the kitchen, but then where we're gonna cook. A refrigerator
books all the time.
A refrigerator full of books. This
I heard her chewing on words, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing.
So it's it's like I want to be, now that I'm older, it's also learning to be more respectful of my books in regards to how to take care of them.
That's where I failed. I mean,
my boys are nerds. My boys are nerds. John has his own collection of books in his room, and my sister, Lisa, is always spoiling him. He's got all of the illustrated Harry Potters that have been produced. The last two have not been done as illustrated versions, but he has the first 5. Because, she will, like, the first 3 were boxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had to buy the other two individually. And it's like, yep, go ahead, be cool, Auntie Lisa. But he's got his own books that he loves. I used to buy them little books when they were kids, and he's fallen in love with the ology books, dragonology, piratology, vampirology. He loves all those books. And so, it's just buying him books. And he gets National Geographic Kids magazine, and I'm running out of space because he won't throw them away. So I have years of issues, and he's got, I mean, and I hate it because, I go in there and I sweep and mop his room, and I have to pick all the stuff off the floor, put it on his bed, sweep and mop, wait for the floor to dry, and then I can put it back down. So yeah, I'm just looking at I need about at least a wall. I have a wall in my living room, and it's like if I have my druthers, that wall would just be bookcases. Because because that's what I need to make sure that we have books. But I know my sister, the minute I got bookcases, she would start buying my youngest Legos. I've stopped her. The last one she bought was a Ministry of Magic Lego set. It's about a good 2 or 3 feet tall. And it eats up a section of an old entertainment center that we have. The TV has to sit on top because that middle part is where all the Legos are at. But it's like, oh great, I could just see it, get more shelves, and she'll just
don't do curios, because curios equal statues and action figures and all the other stuff that gotta get displayed. No, I'm not there yet. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark though. I'm
lucky because at least in regards to Funkos, there are very few of them that I want. I have my Tom Baker Doctor. I love my Tom Baker Doctor Funko Pop. I have my Doctor 4. I think I have my David Tennant. Echo. Which is that? What was that?
Number 9.
I have 9. Yeah. So I have Tom Baker, and then I have the first of the new Doctors, 9, which I really loved him. And unless they come out with like Leela of the 17 or Romana Vorachalunda, I just, or they had for a short time, Five Below had Princess Leia, and I didn't get it in time. So, so it's things, they're very specific. I'm not collecting Funko Pops just for the sake of collecting Funko Pops, and I have so many things that, the box that my, I just realized I'm sitting there looking at the box that the shopping cart came in. It's like, it's about the height of a small bookcase. I wonder. It's like, okay, I got to get that thing out of here. And next thing you know, it'll be stacked with stuff. And I'm actually trying to, Eric just sent us something. I'm actually,
it's probably from his show.
You're probably from his show, yeah. But that's what I want.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm going. Eventually, one of these days, I'm going to eventually break down, and find it, and get it.
Oh,
it's not the fact. It's not the fact that it's Wonder Woman. It has to be the one with the invisible jet.
Oh, because yeah.
As I knew that came out, it's like we have to have it because I have to have it, but I just haven't brought myself around to just really buying it,
Oh man, that is so cute.
And it's a 2-part set. It actually comes with the invisible jet itself.
Wowzers!
So you don't have to buy like a Wonder Woman to go into the invisible jet. It comes as a complete package together.
My 64th is next year. I mean, next month. Just like I didn't hear that. I'm not hearing that.
I was up here like more stuff here, but we are at the 2-hour mark here, and just to give you a preview of what to look forward to for comic book pickups for the week for Saturday.
Ooh. Howard the Human?
Yeah, it's Howard the Duck, number 19.
Mm-hmm.
The homage to Spider-Man No More. This is when Howard becomes human.
Oh, okay.
And it even says right there, a foul no more.
In the new season of What If on Disney, his daughter is human, but she can turn herself into a duck.
Mm-hmm.
I like his daughter. I think she seems sweet.
The whole story in What If about how she came about.
Oh
about
my God.
them protecting the egg and
yeah, that had me laughing. The kids thought I had lost my marbles, because I was in my room just rolling. That was just so funny. That it was, and they had no help. That was it. They had like no help, zero
help. And what's so funny, it's like, okay, we're going to go on vacation, and the collector comes by. It's like, no, everything is free, and this, that, and the other. And he sees the egg, and it's like, yes, everything is free. Don't worry about it. Matter of fact, we have a free babysitting service, and this, that, and the other. We'll take care of your baby, and you don't have to worry about a thing. And then it's like, okay, fine. Okay. Oh, by the way, we're going to have a very special meal in your honor here. I would love for you to join it.
What is it? Omelet?
It was like the movie The Freshman.
Yeah. It was like, we're going to go to Jotunheim. We're going to see Loki. Oh yes, my resort at this, that, and the other is going to be perfectly fine at this, that, and the other. It's like, cool. We could lay out here and nobody will ever be able to find us. And it's like, well, it depends on how my father feels about it. It's like, no, Loki, I told you about the hey, is that the egg?
Oh,
sure,
no.
they can stay.
It was, oh my goodness, that was so,
and the only thing that was the common theme throughout that whole episode was the Kiss song.
Yes.
They kept singing that Kiss song.
I've really been enjoying. I have not binged it. I do a little here and there. It's one of those things I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed what I've seen so much. I don't want to run through it at once. So I'm just kind of, it's like that box of chocolates from Godiva. You don't, it's not like the Stovers that you get for, the Harold Stovers you get for like $3 at Walgreens. This is like, you have to go to Macy's or Saks or something to get this chocolate. So you're not going to tear through it. You're just going to, here, have a little piece. And then you go away. A few days later, it's like, I'll get another little piece. Yum, 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 yum. You go away again.
Well, I do have to ask this one question. This probably the last question for this episode because we're over 2 hours now.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on where they're going with the plot for this season, the last season of What If? Because I thought it could have been written a lot better as far as trying to keep it from spoilers, this so-called trial.
I haven't got that. I got to the part where they just found out where he's been taken, and they've got somebody who's going to help him get there. Okay,
so you saw the episode where they was blaming him for people like Peggy Carter. And
the other watchers jumped on him, and Peggy and them realized something's not right, and so they're trying to they want to save him. That's as far as I am in this story.
Okay, so have you seen the whole thing about what Ultron determined?
I don't think I have.
Okay, I'm not stopping there because maybe I've seen maybe one or two because I haven't seen the whole season as of yet. I saw where they was going with it. And I was like, whoa. It's like why would you take a quick U-turn into this? This kind of makes me not want to watch the rest of it.
It's it's their last season, and this is a show that could have gone for 20 years probably if they had adapted the comic book what if ideas.
They had. I mean, I used to read those. I remember, what if Jane found the hammer and became Thordis?
What if the Fantastic Four had 4 different powers than the ones they got?
Yeah, so I'd seen those and loved them. It was, but the thing is like I said, for me, until comic shops became more of a thing, getting comics was spotty for me because it was like, do they have the ones at the grocery store where it's 3 for $1,
Right.
and they've been cut up, or as I got older, it was like, how often can I get downtown to my favorite newsstand and get a comic? And then, when I was in the Marines,
there you go. There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna have to break Joe's kneecaps because that's mine. Okay, you gonna lose a kneecap, Joe. Just say you pick the one you like the least. Say goodbye.
But it felt
we're not being the movie version of Dukes of Hazzard. We're not going to go, okay, Luke, left or right. We're not doing that.
Fine, I will just pick which kneecap I want and come take it.
But the thing is, because they're on they decided to pull the plug because I've heard different theories, but the idea that they didn't want to do a bunch more multiverse stuff because what they had been doing kind of House of Cards on them. The things they had been kind of planning kind of didn't, so they were kind of like, cut our losses here. And they did a storyline this last season. They went back to a few of the other little things, but basically it was take some of the characters from this latest wave that hadn't got a lot of play and kind of keep them out there for people to look at, and then have a really big, astronomical finish that just cosmic all the way. And to me, overall, that big plot thread with cosmic all the way didn't work very well. It was sort of like, where do you go from here?
It's not working very well because there are certain other entities that I was expecting to see because of the complaint and how they're doing what they're doing. And I was like, oh, if they're going to do this, where is this character?
Exactly.
And I think you know which character I'm referring to.
I always
begins with an L. Begins with an L. Second part of his name begins with a T.
Okay. I always was fond of the Captain Carter line of stories because I really loved that character, and I love the way they switched it. But I also love the fact that they didn't just turn Steve into the help me role. Steve also had a part to play, and that in its way they kind of Winter Soldiered Steve, and she had to deal with that.
You missed the one point. The one point was how Steve had his Bucky. Peggy had Steve as her Bucky.
Yes. But I'm a strident feminist, so I loved Captain Carter. I also love the Agent Carter series. I really love the Agent Carter series. I thought it was really great. I wish they had done more of it.
Me too.
But
But
that's just me.
Ruined Captain Carter as far as a character, though.
I just, like I said, and I think maybe also that's why I'm kind of reluctant to finish watching it, because I know that's going to be the end of Peggy. There will be no more. I don't think they're going to do any more. Are they?
They've been talking about bringing her back in the MCU. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That would be great to see, because I love.
But I don't know in what capacity. That's the problem.
you know, but I loved Agent Carter. I love Captain Carter. It didn't break my heart that I know there are people, guys, who, you know, felt that, you know, they had Steve was the Bucky now, and somehow that was a step down. But
This is a great character.
No,
One of my favorite cosplayers that I cosplay with does a wonderful Captain Carter, and I I thought that I just wish they hadn't put all their third season eggs in her basket.
mhm.
You know, they kind of limited what the show could have been because they kept going back to her as the center point, which they didn't have to do that. She could have been one of many great characters introduced this way to me. But
I kept thinking
Well,
the way, because they were focusing so many episodes, she was in so many episodes. It's like, why not just have a Captain Carter series? You could have
there you
just
go.
made
Yeah,
a series separate from that.
yeah,
I would have watched the hell out of it.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those things I would have got, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Helsing Ultimate. It'd have been just one of those things where when I'm in that mood, it's like, okay, I'm taking a day.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I ain't cooking. You better make a sandwich. Are you bleeding? Is a bone broken? Okay, bye. You
they
know,
they ran
Mm.
into one problem with Peggy, and I think it was a subtle problem, and most people never caught on to it. And that was Peggy broke the fourth wall in What If.
Hmm.
Because you have to think about it. You know, they dealt with Ultron. Ultron, by the
Mhm.
time we get to season 2, was able to get into the multiverse. They was able to see everything that was going on into the multiverse. They eventually stopped them. And then you also had Peggy doing the 1806
Mhm.
portion here, which also throws her into a whole nother universe, and where she was, you know, affecting how other universes and the collapsing of time and everything, and she almost inadvertently did what Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange, did with his original timeline.
yeah.
So they made her kind of like the only person that understood what the Watcher was really doing, and allowing her to break the fourth wall, which makes this season her, her being the centerpiece, being a centerpiece, because she would have been the only one that could understand
Mhm.
what's happened to him, and the fact that she could technically feel something's not right in the universe, that he's no longer watching us.
And like I said, I think that would have worked as if they'd have separated that into its own separate series.
Hmm.
I think it would have really worked. And you could have gotten a few seasons out of that, and other people could have guest starred, you know, popping in and out as necessary.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
keep, you know, because it was like, wow, they could have used, and I keep thinking, oh, well, part of it was probably, you know, what it would do, what it would take to get Tom Hiddleston to do it, you
Mhm.
know, but have Loki come in there because Loki is now, you know, Loki is part of the world tree.
Well, yeah,
Um,
he's a part of the main thread of the timeline. But
yes,
then again, what if never touched that as of yet?
yeah, but I'm saying that there were places they could have gone, you know, because that was, you know, one of the things I've wanted was to have Loki as he is now, to be able to reach out to Thor and say, you know, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm you know, don't worry, I'm okay. And I get it now. You know, to have some sort of, because they are brothers. And
Hmm.
in the end of it, they are brothers in the truest sense. And we know for Thor, there'll always be that part that's torn because he thinks of what their lives could have been like together. And so I guess, you know, it's the mom and me. I would have always I've wanted to see where Loki could have reached out to him in something to just say, you know, I'm okay. It's okay. Don't
You're
worry about it.
you're kind of like how I am with what I've been longing for since they introduced. Well, I can say this: they introduced the other Watchers. That's not a spoiler. So they introduced the other
No.
Watchers
Yeah.
in comic book continuity. There was another similar situation that had happened in the comics. I was hoping for that to happen, and it has not as of yet. all because the one character that I mentioned before that began, his first name begins with the letter L and the last name beginning with the letter T has not shown up, which would have introduced the aspect of the Magistrar.
Oh.
And there was a certain character in the Marvel Universe that became a Magistrar and actually resided over the case as the judge.
I didn't see that.
In the aspect of in lieu of having the living almost it's like instead of having that character LT to reside over themselves.
And that character has been present in the MCU, but never in the spotlight.
Yeah. But
anyway, we gotta go. It's time.
Yep. Okay. You want me to sign out?
Yep, we're going to do that here. We're going to cover these last two. It's like all the what if cartoon things deals with the what ifs for the MCU, so they won't likely randomly do what if Conan was in modern day.
And they have some rights issues like Conan. I don't think they have him anymore for the time being. So you're right.
Yeah, I was about to say they can't. I don't think they can use Conan.
Most of the what if was turned into regular continuity.
Yeah. Well, Jane Foster getting the hammer in the movie,
Yeah, but
she actually got it.
But that was also based on a more modern. They had turned Thor into a woman, and it was.
But where did that idea come from? From the Jane Foster, So
but in the modern one, every time she used Mjolnir, it kills her a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas in the original What If, that was not the situation. She was able to use Mjolnir, and it was not in any way a danger to her health.
Well, it was a double-edged sword with Mjolnir, because Mjolnir was technically keeping in the current continuity was keeping her alive. She could not change back. The more she changed back to Jane Foster, the more it caused her to move towards death. And for people who don't know, Jane Foster during that time had the big C during that time.
She had cancer, but what I'm saying is in the original What If version, that was not the situation. She had no cancer.
No, she was just worthy. She was just worthy of the hammer.
She was worthy of the hammer. So that's that when I originally saw, they were going to include her. It's like, are they going to go back to the original What If version, or is it, then it's like, no, they're going to make it where she's got the cancer, and it's like, okay, let's go for the melodrama.
It was a major big to do because she had the cancer way before they made her Thor. They brought her to Asgard. Asgard was keeping her alive as a favor to Odinson. Because again, he couldn't bring himself to allow her to die, so he was hoping that Asgardian medicine would keep her alive. And then Original Sin happened. Mjolnir was no longer usable by Odinson and Odin because of what had happened. So Mjolnir needed somebody else who was worthy, and turned out it happened to be her. And when it was messed up because Odin originally thought somebody stole Mjolnir.
Okay.
But Freya actually knew. Freya was one of the first people who knew who was worthy.
Okay.
And that was all in continuity. That was in like the first 3 issues of.
I didn't read most of those issues, and my first thought was like, Sif could have had the hammer. Sif should have had the hammer, or Brunhilde, because Brunhilde was really good at that none may say me nay and knocking dudes through walls. So,
you had that. You had Valkyrie. You had a couple other ones.
Yeah, I was about to say there were other women who could have had the helm. Well, okay. She had her issues.
But at one time she would have been worthy because of what she could do.
But with that, I'm gonna say goodnight.
She said Volstagg.
No, I have not Volstagg. Oh goodness. I have not. I've only had a few eggnog egg rolls. Yes, he and voluminous. Yes, we get it. We get it, Leia. He's a big boy. You like them. You like them big. But yeah, I've got Chinese food waiting for me, and I've got to reheat it because it's cold now.
All right.
And
So
I need is sweet and sour chicken. So good night. We love you. We thank you. If again, go if you haven't seen the multiverse fundraiser, go check it out. Go check out their page. It is a good cause. They do comics for kids and comics for military, for soldiers as well. You know, they need help, and then stay. Let's be a light more than anything. Other than that, hey, come find me here at YouTube. I'm getting ready to put some videos out next month. I'm going to be putting new blogs up on my website. Lenscaponline.com will be coming out with blogs in March. And once I get this About Me page done and work out the covers, guess what? Book 1 of And the Coming of Nighttime will be ready in February. Yay! And these guys get advanced reading copies.
Yay!
For putting up with me for all this time.
I want to do a Kermit the Frog.
Yay! So yes, I love you guys. I love your faces. Thank you for being here. Whether you watch us live or you come and watch us another time, we appreciate you. And that's me signing out. Y'all behave. Please.
And now we have Clyde.
Hey, so I'm Clyde Hall. Some say an elder statesman of geekery. Follow me on Facebook at Clyde Hall or Radiating Positive Vibes with author Clyde Hall. And I'm on Blue Sky at captainaction.bsky.social, or you can check out my Amazon authors page right here. Part of the Comics Beat online comic book review crew at comicsbeat.com, all one word.com, and part of the Comic Book Spectrum podcast every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central, right here. So I'm also an award-winning contributing writer at Stormgate Press with short stories in many of their new pulp, their anthology series like Pulp Reality, volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5 just came out. The Lost Adventures of Captain Hawkland, volumes 1 and 2. The Adventures of Tim Bruckner's Major Marjorie, and Spurs and Six Shooters, Tales of the Old West. For whatever is coming up next from Stormgate Press and their new pulp goodness, you can go to www.stormgatepress.com. Comic Book Spectrum is also brought to you by one of our Stormgate Press alumni, artist extraordinary Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. He is a Pulp Factory award-winning artist, several years running. His covers illustrate why, and for your next project, be it books or games or graphic enhanced work, you want somebody who brings readers and customers to your table. And Jeffrey Hayes is that somebody. Being both easy to work with and affordable, as well as cosmically talented, they're just bonuses. Joe is going to tell you now how to get Plasma Fire Graphics and Jeffrey Hayes working for you.
And that is right. If you believe what Clyde said, I want you to take a look at this video real quick, which shows you the capabilities and the graphic talents of Jeffrey Hayes. Look.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
And there you have it. That is Jeffrey Hayes with Plasma Fire Graphics here. So if you got a brand new book that's coming out, whether it be prose or comic, he will be the guy that can help you out with a surefire cover that will get somebody's attention here. As far as I'm concerned, I will be back here on Saturday for another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. What we're going to talk about, who knows at this point. You know, I'm trying not to rant anymore, but it just seems like the more and more I look at videos and people talking about the comic book industry, the more I find that, you know, not everybody is on the same page or actually understand why things are the way that they are here. But before we go, I will want to highlight one more time that we do have the comic books for kids for the multiverse fundraiser for this year. You could go out to the following address up here, which is phoenixsistersentertainment.com/multiverse fundraiser 2025. On that particular page right here, you can see the whole schedule here, and you have the view on YouTube button right there if you want to view everything that happened over this past weekend. And don't forget to donate if you have the opportunity to do so. They are taking donations until February. So we got a couple more days. I believe it's going to be up until like February 8th or something like that. But you still have time to donate to the great cause of comic books for kids. And pretty much that's a wrap for us on this particular comic book spectrum. As always, I don't care if you wash your hands or not, but never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. Live life, grow, and be well. And we are out of here. See you later, alligators, and we are out. Bye. Oh, we're still here. So that gives me an opportunity to be like Ferris Bueller. Why are you still here? Go home. Go home. Go home.